It's another day in paradise, indeed. Anytime Richard Solomon joins us here on the Now Morning Show. He's the Managing Director of Development Consulting Center Limited. And he always leads intelligent conversation, this time exploring the relationship between qualifications and position, whether or not there is a mismatch. Good morning and welcome back.
Very good morning to you, and good to be back.
Taking it all in as I say it, thinking, there definitely is a mismatch in many cases. We could easily see where there are persons coming out of school with a bevy of qualifications and really dissatisfied with the options that are available to them. And so it begs the question of that formula of going to school, get a good education, get a good job. Is it still applicable to our society?
It's not an easy question to answer, because there are people who have done exactly that. You know, they went to school, they got qualified, they found a pathway, and then, economically at least, their lives are okay. But it's not a cure-all, it's not a panacea, it doesn't work in every case. And I think people really need to understand that the qualification is meant to be sort of a foreteller of your competence. See, people think, well, if I'm qualified, I have the letters, usually 3 of them, then surely I can do this job. Is that really always true?
To answer that question, let's explore the notion of then the focus on vocational skills and other things, because there was also the conversation of, okay, so maybe everybody doesn't walk that path. Maybe we should explore different things and get a skill. We're seeing a lot of skilled people similarly not being matched well for jobs as well. We're seeing a lot of vacancies and we're not necessarily seeing them filled. Whether it be an active or a deliberate action to not fill them is another conversation. But there's a lot to consider. What is the answer to that question?
So the vocational skills, I want to put that on a quick parking bay and answer another question that you didn't ask. We don't have a jobs problem in this country. We do not have a jobs problem. What we might have is a quality of jobs problem, meaning the type of jobs that people may want. Because remember what we did. We put a lot of money, billions and billions, into education. We've been doing this for a long time, even before GATE. Remember in some of our neighboring sister isles around us, secondary education is not free. Some people pay for that. We have not had to pay for that for a very long time. And I know some parents will say, well, we have to spend money on various things. Yes, but the tuition you don't pay for. So we have a pipeline that feeds qualified people. So whether it be vocational, which we don't do enough of in my opinion, or other kinds of qualifications. But on the other side of that, the demand side, that is not, it isn't aligned. So many people are thinking, well, if I go and study whatever it is, electrical, mechanics, because you talked about vocational, there should be a job somewhere out there waiting for me. Maybe you have to make it.
And then that leads us to the next part of the conversation. Are graduates being unrealistic or are employers unreasonable?
Graduates that believe, or graduands, I think they say that's the correct term after they've moved the tassel to the other side. Think that once I have this parchment, then it means that someone should open a door for me. Well, if we refer to the previous mismatch, which exists, and it exists, right, on the one hand, and then we realize that the qualification should be a foreteller of your competence, but it isn't always, then I think, yes, in many cases people are unrealistic. I like to say, you know, we had this rash, and it's probably still going on, of people going to study business administration. Which businesses are you going to administer? Do we have enough businesses to be administered? The answer is obviously no. So you will hear the story of somebody saying, I have a master's degree and I'm doing, you know, something that is significantly below that. And I understand, you know, understandably so, they're quite upset. But no one created a job. You know, this is not Walmart. In Walmart, you take one off the shelf and the maker makes one. Nobody created a job when you went into the university system. That's just not how economies work.
But we do have a lot of compelling or encouragement to create our own businesses.
There you go.
So then, in terms of answering that question of employees or employers rather being unreasonable, we need to become the employees, perhaps, is the answer to the question.
Yeah. I mean, as it is now, we have over 13,000 MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and they employ about 34% of the labor force. That's a lot, and we need more. We need more people, and I think if we did that as a society, we would do far better. More people saying, I don't necessarily need to have a job. I need to earn.
Right.
I need to contribute to the society, but that doesn't have to be a job in someone else's organization, one. And then secondly, Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have to be my market or my only market. So one of the challenges we have, if you read our reports on the World Economic Forum, market size, not meaning the size of our market, but where we reach or where we are able to reach or willing to go to, it's small because we don't strike out nearly as far as we should. The world is a big place. There are lots of opportunities. So I wish more people would say, hey, I'm going to do my own thing, which is not an easy thing to do. And also, I'm going to strike out beyond the boundaries of Trinidad and Tobago. There's a lot going on out there. And the government is encouraging it. So when you look at how taxes are done, you get 150% credit for promotions in foreign market. So whether you go, whether you make promotional flyers and all those kinds of things, you go to trade fairs and so on, you get 150% credit on the expense. So the government is clearly trying to say, hey, go out there into other markets and bring in some foreign exchange, which is another issue. But
let's not touch that one just yet.
Maybe another time.
Definitely a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But then let's talk a little bit about the path then, going back to the formula, if you will,
Right.
get that education, get that job. So let's take it a little differently. Yes, still get that education, perhaps get that skill and become the employer.
Sure.
Create the job. What then are we looking for, or what then should we have as potential employers? What are employers looking for then?
Right. So
let's fill the gap.
Yeah, employers are always looking for competence. Competence is the ability to do a thing. There are very few qualifications that certify you as being able to do that thing. That's the truth. I mean, if you're a pilot, then in order to get that qualification, you must have flown for a certain amount of hours on that particular type of aircraft. Same is true for a traffic controller and a few other jobs.
Right.
But most qualifications aren't. You go and you do, when I did a second MBA, I had a lot of people in the class who were half my age saying things like, I just want to get past this. There's no interest in mastery. There's no interest in application. I just want to get past it so that they could go on to maybe get a promotion. And I have nothing against getting a promotion, but are you competent? So if you're not competent, which is very often the case, then you now need to go into the world of work, take what you could get, because it's always easier to find a job when you are in the world of work,
Right.
and begin to look for opportunities and work your way out and learn to be able to apply. It's like a driver's permit. When you first get a driver's permit, would we consider you to be competent as a driver? Well, most people, the answer would be no. You have reasonably basic or fundamental skills to be able to operate the vehicle on the nation's roads.
Right.
But there's a lot of learning to be done, and I think more people need to see it that way.
That's a beautiful analogy, actually, in terms of even how you've simplified the ability to actually do something. The competence is a whole other show that we could hold on to.
Yeah.
And so, okay, competence, actual experience, learning, and eventually creating that new path towards becoming an employer should be a better way to navigate the situation
Yes.
then.
Yeah.
What are we missing then? We know what the employers are looking for, but what are we, the employees or potential employers, because that's the part we're going now, what are we missing?
Many people probably will not like what I'm about to say, but and they say this is probably sort of an old way of looking at the world. You have to pay your dues. Paying your dues doesn't mean that you just bide your time, No, you look for an opportunity. I met Anthony Watkins many years ago, and he said, follow me around. In other words, he gave me an opportunity to learn his craft. Never asked him how much you're going to pay me to follow you around. I just followed him around, learned and asked questions. Find a spot, soak in the information. Come early, stay late, try harder. Don't be so hurried to make the biggest figures. And that's one of the problems. I understand we have life expectancies or life expectations, and we need to pay for all the things we have to pay for.
Right.
But what's going to happen if you master your craft more than likely, and you're the type of employee with the kind of work ethic that employers really value is one day you're going to be paid more than you're actually contributing. That actually happens. You will wonder one day, well, how come? If you start your own business and you're really able to add value to your clients' lives, usually you're going to look at that and marvel, if you're really willing to do it. Most people are willing to make the sacrifice. We have to be able to learn, master your craft, be prepared to sort of work in the trenches and get there. And many of us who have gotten to some place of comfort, some place of success, as they call it, we've done that. Many of us have done that. I suspect right here in the studio, there are many people who, one of the ways that they mastered their craft is they just grabbed an opportunity and did it and practiced and got better and better and better. That's what needs to happen. And stop having this expectation that because you have got these letters, somebody has a job out there waiting for you. Now, to be fair, I have to say, there are people and organizations who will probably try to take advantage of that. That's real. So we have to try and strike a balance between a person's desire to grow, therefore taking an opportunity that may not, in their opinion, be at the level that they want it to be, and those who would want to take advantage of that, because that is not in anybody's best interest, really, at the end of the day.
And this is across the board, regardless of whether we're talking about education and employment, but generally, people will take advantage of what they can. So we definitely need some discernment. We can chart a different course, and we can close that gap. We can assist with or implement things to mend that mismatch, to realign, as we say. We definitely can do it. What I want to know is when next you're coming on to the show so we can continue this conversation, because I'm sure you've opened up many questions and challenged a lot of thoughts, even from just the standpoint of heading into the new year, how you're planning to do that, and perhaps redirecting your course. If we were to think about it from the perspective of I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about the current state of affairs abroad. But if we were to try to think about how we will have to chart things differently, perhaps not altogether doing away with education and going the traditional route, but filling that gap, give me 3 key points that we need to take away this morning. A formula.
I don't know if this is a formula, and I don't know if I could do 3 points, but let me see what I can do. First of all, you need to study what's coming down the pipeline. In other words, what are the job openings that are going to be coming down the pipeline? Because you like this or you like that does not necessarily mean that people are willing to pay you for it. Minister Allison has talked about 13,000 jobs open in the public sector. Now, some of that is probably because of bureaucracy and, we just haven't gotten to advertising and filling those positions as yet. But she also mentioned that all ministries have need for people with digital and communication skills. And I would suggest that there is a dearth. We have a mismatch in terms of what is available and what we need. So that's one. Study what's coming down the pipeline. Secondly, go back to competence. Does your degree give you competence? Do you need to supplement what you are studying with other things so that you can actually do the thing? That discipline to be willing to learn to do, not just to have the letters and say, like someone says to me, after all, I have a master's. So what? It's not that popular, it's not that special anymore. Lots of people have it. So that's 1, 2. And the third thing I would say is that people have to be willing to wait. I know we live in an instant world and things seem to come easier, but you can't cram a crop. Stephen Covey famously said that. You can't cram a crop. You can't cram competence, I'm sorry. There's no way that a person gets good by microwave. You kind of have to go through the steps and plant the seed or turn on the stove and actually do the cooking. There's no microwaving your competence, and there should be no such expectations. Maybe a good way to end it is to say, no elevators, only stairs.
And in that case, let me start getting my steps in. It is always delightful to have you on Sat with us, Mr. Solomon. We will continue these types of conversations as long as you will have us. But for now, we're going to take a break and come back with even more insightful conversations here on the Now Morning Show. Stick around, guys.